footprint to significantly spread. It is now impacting, as Kevin mentioned, properties on the north side of the road, driveways, occasionally 1200 north, as well as septic systems and encroaching into houses and structural issues. So, looking what the department would then do with this public drainage easement is reconstruct an outlet or put in like an outlet weir to lower that water level. And then also provide something to where we have the public access and the ability for us to have the county responsible for the maintenance of that outlet structure. That way it can't become blocked or dammed to increase the water levels in the area.
Where are you releasing the water to?
So in that red rectangle, and that is not the footprint of the easement, that was just showing, kind of highlighting like this is where the easement is going to go. You can see in that agricultural field that there's the grass, so that little bit of difference in the lay of the land. That is a natural overland flow route, so it's like a natural swale. So we would install the outlet weir structure and then improve that overland flow route to make it more of a swale with more defined side slopes and a center line of ditch to convey the water from the weir to 1200 north. And then on the north side of the road, you can see that more transparent blue rectangle. That is the Kemper Ditch Arm 18 drainage easement. And then you can also see that the blue line that says Kemper Ditch Arm 18. This is part of that regulated drain that was vacated 3 years ago now as a part of the ARPA funds. And then that transparent blue rectangle is the new easement over the newly reconstructed drain tile. So we have the functioning outlet that conveys the water to the north. And then with the new easement, we will be able to reconstruct the overland flow route.
So, and the reason that you're coming to us is because you asked them to do the work, and so that's why, in return for them doing the work, you're asking that we waive the fee.
Yes. So I requested that they include this easement on their plat. They put together the legal description on the plat, so they incurred the cost. They already had the surveyor hired to do their plat subdivision, but there was additional work that their surveyor had to do to be able to put out the metes and bounds of the easement and show that on their plat. So, in a good faith effort, the department was requesting that the fee be waived. Since they have been good to work with, they were willing to work with the department not only to include that drainage easement on their plat, but then also willing to grant that to the county so that we can make the necessary improvements to resolve the issue.
I move that we approve the regulated drain fee waiver. And how do you pronounce it? Grecian?
Yeah.
Administrative subdivision?
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next. You have a case SM 260006, INDOT State Road 8 near County Road 150 West.
Yeah, so this is NDOT was requesting to replace the existing small structure that carries State Road 8 over Phillips Ditch with a 24-foot by 7-foot reinforced concrete box structure. The case was heard at the May 11th, 2026 Stormwater Advisory Board meeting, and staff's recommendation, SWA's recommendation was approval per staff recommendations.
Okay, any discussion?
Are we going to do both of them together?
We, however you guys would like to do it, we can do them both
We can
together.
do both of them together, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay.
So together, okay. And then the next one is docket number SM 26-0007. This is the Grecian Administrative Subdivision. As we discussed, this was SWA's recommendation of approving or the acceptance of the public or regulated drainage easement per staff recommendations.
I move that we approve cases SM-26-006 and SM-26-007.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to claims.
Yeah, so these claims are from the Stormwater Fund. We have Ludington Ditch in the amount of $750.00. And then Stonebridge subdivision in the amount of $6,634.25.
I move that we approve claims. Did you?
Got a motion and a second?
Yes.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Contract administration.
Yeah, so in front of you this morning, I have a change order for our Bridlewood subdivision ravine stabilization project. And this is to adjust the contract price to reflect the final measured quantities, as well as due to the construction of the engineered seep. If you will recall, at the last meeting, I discussed the poor soils encountered during this ravine stabilization project. So this change order is our final change order, balancing change order, to account for the additional work necessary to construct that. So the change order will increase the value of the contract by $18,133.93 to a total contract price of $105,133.93.
I move that we approve change order number 1 for the Bridlewood subdivision ravine stabilization project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Okay, discussion.
Uh,
Fox Chase Farm subdivision.
I'm sorry. So now this morning I wanted to start the discussion for Fox Chase Farms subdivision. A little bit of history on this, Melissa. If you'll go to the next slide.
Where is this?
Yeah, so this is just on the west side of Meridian Road, just north of Route 6.
Okay.
So it was a 100-lot subdivision platted in 1994. Reading through the Drainage Board meeting minutes, as well as the plat of subdivision, it says that it's a regulated drainage system, including the detention area. However, the maintenance fees or assessments would be waived, providing that the POA maintains the drainage infrastructure. So we were contacted by the Fox Chase Farms POA in 2022 regarding drainage issues affecting the subdivision. And similar to other subdivisions where the POA is responsible for maintenance of the drainage infrastructure, we instructed them to complete them being the POA, to complete a stormwater infrastructure study to identify what is the condition of the existing storm sewers and drainage infrastructure, what are the drainage issues throughout the subdivision, and then what is the preliminary cost to resolve those drainage issues. So that study was completed in 2025, and then the final amendment, including the cost estimates, this spring. So I wanted to bring this in front of the board to discuss the results of that stormwater infrastructure study, and then also seek some guidance on where we'd like to move forward. So what the infrastructure study identified were 8 priority projects, 4 of which were related to the condition of the storm sewers. There are 43 storm sewer segments total throughout the subdivision. I would say approximately half of those are within the road right of way. 10 of the storm sewer segments were unable to be inspected. That is because they were either completely buried with debris or completely full of water. So the recommendation for those 10 segments would be full replacement or reconstruction. 17 segments were in poor condition or high priority. So they were either significantly damaged, cracked, poor condition, root intrusion, full of debris, or also significant water bellies in the pipe. So those would also need to be full replacement or reconstruction of those storm sewer segments. 15 were medium priority, or what we would consider moderate condition, minor obstructions and debris in the pipe. The pipe still appears to be in moderate condition, no significant structural damage. Recommendation would be cleaning, and then a few point repairs or pipelining. And then 1 storm sewer segment was in good condition, so nothing to be done with that. Next slide, please. So the preliminary cost summary for the identified issues throughout the subdivision was $676,020, and this includes the cost of the repair of the storm sewers within the road right of way. The roads are publicly maintained by Porter County, so and those storm sewers are providing a drainage benefit to the public right of way. And then the preliminary cost summary for the identified issues, not including the storm sewers within the road right of way, was $260,880. If you will recall, the path forward that the board has taken in the past with subdivision in this situation is looking at what is the 20-year capture rate of the stormwater user fee dollars. So that is 240,000. So it's $120 a lot times 100 lots times 20 years. And then what we have sought as a cost share is the difference between the preliminary cost summary identified in the stormwater infrastructure study and then this 20-year capture rate. So the difference that we're looking at is $436,020. If we look at that 20-year capture rate to the preliminary cost summary for the identified issues, including the storm sewers within the road right of way. I mentioned that cost summary that we've sought from the HOA. However, none of those cost shares have been this significant, looking at magnitudes of hundreds of thousands of dollars. The one that the highest one I've been involved with was Arbor Lake subdivision, and that was the amount of $88,000. And then if you look at the difference between that 20-year capture rate and then what are the issues outside of the road right of way, we come to $21,880. So the direction that I'm looking for from the board is what path forward would we like to go with a subdivision, in this instance with poor condition stormwater infrastructure, half of which is within the road right of way, in need of, we can say that pretty much all storm sewer segments minus one are in need of either full reconstruction or some sort of significant maintenance. And then the history through the drainage board was that we're saying that it's going to be regulated, but the POA is supposed to be maintaining the stormwater infrastructure. So I just wanted to start the discussion and see, like I said, what path forward would the board like to go as we move towards some sort of agreement, memorandum of understanding on how does the board want to accept this into the county infrastructure and the county to be responsible for maintaining, repairing, reconstructing that stormwater infrastructure, or should it be stay that the POA is responsible for that maintenance, repair, and reconstruction? And if the county would like to bring it into our inventory, then what would we like to go? What path would we like to go for that cost share?
So they have been paying the stormwater fee.
Yes.
Person has been paying it,
Yes.
but the POA technically has been responsible for maintaining the stormwater infrastructure, even though they've been paying the stormwater fee this entire time.
Yes.
But it looks like they haven't been doing anything in terms of maintaining this stormwater infrastructure, correct? Because everything is in such poor condition.
Yes, that is correct.
And so now that everything is in such poor condition, now they're coming to us because through neglect, is it possible that the cost is much more than it would be had they been doing regular maintenance?
I think some of it could definitely be because of lack of maintenance, issues with the detention basin, and then also I think majority of the issues are because of poor construction practices. So back pitch pipe, pipe that is outletting to a detention basin whose elevation is higher, so that's impounding water, sediment, and debris within the pipes. And then also it's pipe materials, so it's HDPE pipe. So that's where you're seeing that root intrusion and the broken pipe from that.
So there's some culpability on the county's part because they allowed it.
It did meet the standards of the subdivision and drainage ordinance at the time. And
it did.
It did, yes.
Or our standards were low.
Yes.
Our standards were significantly different than what they are now. And it's
I think the other issue was the type of materials. Installation was a factor. The standards of doing bedding were dismal, in my opinion. I never really liked working with plastic, but that was always the option for governments locally, as opposed to steel and concrete. But installation and age are both big factors because remember, this whole system's over 30 years old.
And
Kevin, that entire development is not 30 years old. That the initial first phase of it may be bumping on 30 years, but most of that is under 30 years old. Which I was, when this came up, I was kind of surprised. I drive by that 4 or 5 times a week.
Sure.
So we don't have any responsibility for even paying any attention to stormwater infrastructure that we're not responsible for, correct? So we're not responsible for checking to see if the POA is maintaining their stormwater infrastructure. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
But I understand that, Barb. But as I touched on here just a minute ago, it was the county who approved that system to go in, and I think that because of that, and through Kevin's own statement, is that there were inferior, materials allowed to be used and inferior processes and allowed to be installed. I think that we have some responsibility here. So I think my personal opinion is we should do what we need to do to fix it.
I agree.
I mean, what are we looking at in an overall cost here?
676,000.
That's the total, and then the rest is the breakdown.
That is the total. The rest is looking at the 20-year capture rate is at 240,000. The 261,000 number is the improvements necessary outside of the road right of way. And then also, I think one thing I want to touch on is when this was developed, the subdivision inspections were inspections only of the roadways. So the installation of the stormwater infrastructure based on the current standards, the UDO standards of the time, was not looking at the installation of the stormwater infrastructure. That is obviously significantly different now. But yeah, this is a very similar situation, similar age to some of these other subdivisions that are regulated and that we're working on reconstructing. Rolling Meadows, Carriage Hills, very similar situation. Pipe material, which was allowed and thought to be good at the time. Now we have learned more in the last 30 years. So just a little bit, want to keep that in mind as well.
You have to keep in mind those are our roads that
Yes.
are right away.
Yes.
And whatever happens behind it or in front of that, that can affect flooding of it or the deterioration of the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
We should be intimately, interested. So, if the POA can they can help with the cost of fixing all this, but it needs fixed.
It definitely needs fixed. I agree. So just so I understand, it seems like the sentiments of the board is that we would like to move forward with a memorandum of understanding to bring this infrastructure into the county's inventory and, we'll say, quote unquote, make it a regulated subdivision.
And Barb asked a question I didn't quite catch it. Have they been paying the stormwater fee up to date?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No-brainer.
And they're willing to cost share some of this too. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah. So that's I guess the second part that I wanted to get into then is what path or what dollar amount would the board like to go after as a cost share from the HOA? Do we want to say it's the $21,880? That's the cost share amount for outside of the road right of way. Or do we want to see what is the maximum amount that the HOA can pay over that 21,000? I think if you like staff's opinion, I think it might be unreasonable to seek a cost share of $436,000 from a 100-lot subdivision.
Well, that's a very family-oriented community in there. A lot of kids, a lot of family. It's not rich retired people that live in there. Personally, I'm fine with the 21,880.
Okay.
And then us take on the rest of it.
Okay.
I like that idea too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That is the path forward that the staff will go. And I will work with the HOA as well as Attorney McClure on getting an MOU together for the 21,880 and bringing this infrastructure into our inventory and then moving forward with the priority project.
Do we then, when we take over responsibility, do we then have certain requirements of the POA that they have to do some things? Typically,
Yeah, so in instances where we need drainage easements, we've asked the HOA to help us kind of be the boots on the ground, start the conversations with those individual property owners if we need drainage easements. But looking at the plat, I might be putting my foot in my mouth, but I do believe all of the drainage infrastructure is already within a platted drainage easement. So then that's part of that MOU would speak to is conveying those. But we would work with the HOA to do that public education and outreach and explaining this is what's going.
And Scott and Chelsea, and since the county is taking on the lion's share of what it's going to cost to repair this, make sure the MOU lands in our favor in regard to giving us access to whatever we need to fix what the problem is.
Yeah, absolutely.
but then after we've taken over responsibility and everything has been fixed,
Mm-hmm.
do we ask them to do anything? The POA.
No, because the responsibility for maintenance would be conveyed to.
Okay.
Just get out of the way, right?
And we have to do this to protect our road systems that we're
Mhm.
alluding
Right.
to.
Yeah.
Right.
Because this silt plugs
There are roads,
pipes and
the communities in our county,
Mm.
and we've been collecting the fee all this time. So
Mhm.
let's get it fixed.
And I think there are several subdivisions, numerous subdivisions throughout the county, where the HOA is responsible for the maintenance of the drainage infrastructure, and they have been paying the stormwater user fee. And our current stormwater user fee is not sufficient to bring in every single subdivision. That it's currently not the county's responsibility for maintenance. So I think that is something, as we go into our strategic planning, a discussion that we need to have and keep in mind. I agree, they have been paying the stormwater user fee. But that also goes towards our MS4
That's why we need to
department.
talk about the fee.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the first step to that is the strategic plan on what do we have regulated, what is currently not regulated, and what path forward do we want to go with it to get.
And do we have any other similar subdivisions to Fox Chase Farms where they have been paying the fee, but we haven't taken over their?
Yes, that's the ones where it's new. It's on the scale of probably 100.
And then how did you pick this one out of all of those?
The HOA approached the county with saying we have significant drainage issues. You're saying that the HOA is responsible for maintenance of the drainage infrastructure. They don't have the funds, so what path forward would it be for the county to maintain the infrastructure?
Okay.
Or to fix what's currently broken,
Right.
to bring it up to date.
Yes.
And that's why, Scott and I don't even know if it's possible if there's a way, if we adjust this fee, that for those communities that have an existing problem that we've looked into through a study, and such as this one, and seeing, well, yeah, we've been collecting a fee, but we haven't had the responsibility to inspect the larger portion of this, and the larger portion of this is in bad shape because the POA has not, invested in it. That we adjust our fee in those situations, that maybe it's a little bit higher than it would be for somebody living, off a county road all by itself. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
I just think that makes a lot of sense, and also if I lived in there, and like I said, that's a wonderful community. It's very nice. The nicely kept. Most of the yards are nice. It's probably my largest investment that I have as a family. Many people are like that. Is that I'll pay a little more to get the infrastructure around my home in good working order. Absolutely, just makes my home more valuable.
And I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, I think part of that additional fee is where this cost share comes in. That looking at what are the HOA paying to conduct this stormwater infrastructure study, identifying what is the total cost of repair for the issues, whether because of lack of maintenance or.
I understand that, but I think that instead of bringing this to us and say, okay, if I'm sitting out in the audience, I'm one of the homeowners. Thank God, I hope these three, or at least two of them, are in a good mood, and they're not sticking us with, is that we have some kind of rate schedule depending on the size of the issue that we go by.
Okay.
That way, I don't have an ex-wife, but if I had an ex-wife, she's living in there, I'm going to stick it to her and say, oh, the higher one, I'll just give it the higher one.
Got it. Okay. No.
Sure.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm
Where you're coming from.
being silly. But
No, I understand where you're coming.
I agree too, because as Chelsea said, we have many other POAs. Fortunately, in this case, they made that a regulated drain as well. Many of the POAs, they're not regulated drains, so we don't even have the easement in those. So we need some kind of regimen that allows us to consider taking on the POA, and that's got to be formalized somehow. But I like the idea of having some kind of fee adjustment because of the expenses.
yeah, some kind of rate schedule, because at the end of the day, if we went to the much higher cost here, the POA is just going to increase the POA fee
It would be the special
to
assessment,
come up with the money.
the individual funds. Yes.
I think this is a fair approach.
Okay.
But since you said we have different categories of subdivisions right now. Some where the POA is responsible and they've been paying the fee, and we have the right of way to. The POA has the right of way to the stormwater infrastructure, right? So that's one category
Mm-hmm.
where we don't have to go get individual approvals from each of the homeowners.
Because some of those communities like Barbie's touching on, they don't have POAs or HOAs.
Yeah. So I think. Do you want me to? I can try.
Well, what I was going to say, okay, so that's one category, but then you have another category where they haven't been paying the stormwater fee, and they are technically responsible because who else is going to be responsible? But the infrastructure is failing and they have not been maintaining it. And so then, do we have any sort of idea of how we're going to be dealing with those subdivisions?
Well, and let me add this too.
Yeah.
It's easy to lose this concept, I think, when you're talking about stormwater, but this isn't an isolated drinking water line going from one place to another. Normally, these things, the problems are good area goes into a bad area, back to a good area, back to two more goods to get through three more bads before it gets to where it needs to go eventually. So sometimes, we have to look at these things individually by neighborhood, by by the way we set those up. But on the other hand, it's an entire, whether it's a watershed or an area that all of it's working together to get to wherever it needs to go. So, when we're dealing with a sewer pipe, we keep that continuity in our mind that it's all one system going to the plant.
Yeah.
This is like having multiple systems all going out to whatever that big ditch, that big waterway is to finally get the water going, but it's all connected one way or another. We have very few areas that it goes over there, it's bad, but doesn't cause us any more problems. It just continues on through the rest of our system.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And then I think one thing to also keep in mind is the only people who don't pay the stormwater user fee are those within municipalities or those within select conservancy districts.
In what? In conservancy?
Conservancy district.
Oh, select. Okay.
So some,
At all.
not all. So one example is Damon Run Conservancy District.
Yeah.
Their charter was for them to, Damon Run in Valparaiso Lakes area, VLACD. Their charter is for them to maintain the drainage infrastructure. So we don't collect the stormwater user fee in their conservancy district boundaries. Everywhere else in unincorporated Porter County, we collect a stormwater user fee. It doesn't matter if your HOA maintains the stormwater infrastructure or if it's a regulated subdivision, county maintains the stormwater infrastructure.
Only
That's-
water's still exempted.
Well, yeah, I just two examples that are,
Oh,
but yeah, no, there's several others.
Well,
I'm not
there's
I
a
attempt to remember all of them.
functions that conservancy districts have, but the one up in Chesterton Indian boundary doesn't have that responsibility to begin with. They were formed for sewer and water, but they don't do flood or storm water.
So we collect a stormwater user fee based off of the agreement when the stormwater user fee was enacted in 2016 or 2014 and 2015 when the ordinances were written. But then, Barb, to go down to your two categories of subdivisions, I think for simplicity, think of it, there's two categories: county regulated, county maintained. Uh, it's very clear that this is county responsible for stormwater infrastructure. Then there's HOA maintained. County is currently not responsible for maintaining the stormwater infrastructure.
Do we know whether or not in this particular case with the POA is it in the POA that they're collecting a portion of the fee they're collecting each month from homeowners goes toward stormwater maintenance?
I don't know that. I don't know. I can ask them on their budget.
This gentleman may have it.
No, I would say
No.
No.
nothing in the information they give us every year is anything with storm water management.
Part of my issue with POAs, Jim, was many of them were not incorporated. In this case, it was incorporated, but even in the incorporation papers, it doesn't give specific budget items like it should, in my opinion. It should be more like running a business, but this was basically a development tool to avoid paying drainage assessments.
Are we, currently, when we get a development in front of us, the plan commission gets a development in front of them, are they more critical of turning over that responsibility to a POA or an HOA? I got to tell you,
My preference is,
I'm not giving them that responsibility.
no, my preference is not to do that.
Yes.
But the county ordinances, particularly back at the time of Fox Chase Farms, gave the option to the developer, which I thought was
ordinance.
we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the new.
The answer is we don't do this anymore.
We don't do this anymore. This is the pre 2008 UDO, and any major subdivision now has to go in front of the Stormwater Advisory Board and Stormwater Management Board for determination of the responsibility of maintenance. And staff recommendation is always it be publicly maintained. And because we have found that the HOA maintaining the stormwater infrastructure, it doesn't work. They don't have no HOA. Well, I don't want to say no HOA. Very few HOAs would have the financial ability to cover $676,000. So that's why staff's recommendation.
Plus,
And
they don't have the expertise to even understand
correct.
what they're looking at.
Yes.
And all the better for this, this rate schedule that we may consider here is that, when the plan commission and this board is reviewing a proposal for 150, 200 lot subdivision coming in, and their stormwater, because of where it's setting, the stormwater system, the engineering on it is very complex and expensive to put in. We need to keep that in mind moving forward, and maybe, okay, from day one, here's what your residents are going to pay for us to stay on top of this.
Now we've gone a little bit further. We've got operations and maintenance with the drainage features that we didn't have 40 years ago or 30 years ago. There's a lot of expectations for the locals and for the county. But one of my issues with POAs, and one of the reasons I think we saw fewer of them by 1998, there were some of us on Plan Commission that insisted they incorporate their POA before we finalize their plat. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to do a regulated drain again.
Yeah. Well, it's just, historically, we, as a commissioner, you run into developers every day. They want to complain how difficult it is to get through. This is an example why.
And these subdivisions from this era are a example why the 2008 UDO was enacted and why our department, quite frankly, exists, especially our development review program of we are reviewing the engineering plans. Is this constructible? Is it maintainable? Does this make good engineering sense? Is it meeting our standards? And then we also have field inspection.
Right.
So are they putting the correct material in that it shows on the plans? Are they putting it in the correct spot? I mean, we've seen subdivisions where it says the storm sewer will be in the road and then it's 20 feet in the parkway. So not only is it meeting our UDO standards, but then is it meeting the plans that were approved by our department? And then we have that post-construction storm sewer televising before we reach final acceptance. And that's one that we're going through with the Stonebridge subdivision that was on the claims as, we're doing that storm sewer televising inspection of the storm sewer before we say, yes, we're accepting this. That way we know that we're accepting good condition infrastructure prior to that final acceptance and the county saying, yes, we are maintaining this infrastructure.
And as we all look at, all of us up here anyway, understand is that when we're not tough, we don't require them to cross every T and dot every I. When the problem hits 20 years later or 30 years later, it all lands on our lap.
It does, yes.
Because individual, property owners, homeowners, they can't tackle this. It's too large.
Right.
So,
Mr. Jabo?
Just to add that the big elephant in the room is as we take these on because of the sins
Can you
of the
put the
because of the sins of the past, it's going to require more money,
yeah.
which we don't have.
Well, that's why I brought up we need to have a discussion about this fee.
Well, the stormwater fee isn't, in general, something we're discussing internally. We hope to roll out to, but we first have to have a mission of what it is we want to do.
Well, something needs to be brought up in front of the Board of Commissioners so we can review it and discuss it, because it's every passing month it seems to get worse and worse, and we all understand it because it is getting worse and worse. But that we need to have a serious conversation about that. We're going on 8 years, Scott? 9 years since we initiated the fee.
10 years.
10 years?
Has it been 10?
It's been
2015.
So it's been a decade.
I think originally when the council passed the rate, we had a 5-year time built into the ordinance that we weren't allowed to raise it. That was the promise to the ratepayers at that time, was we were going to build the department, not raise the fee for 5 years. And it sounds like we've doubled that promise to date.
Yeah. There comes a time, honestly, when you take on these jobs, that if you keep avoiding an uncomfortable conversation like that, you become part of the problem.
Sure.
At that point. So we need to have that conversation.
Yeah, and but we've started the conversation of looking at what is the outstanding liabilities that we are aware of throughout the county, provided some different scenarios of this is what we need, and then I think the first meaningful step is going to be the strategic planning process, which we are kicking off, getting a proposal signed with the consultant. That way we can figure out, like Mike said, what is our mission? Where are we trying to go? Because we can, instead of throwing something at the wall and saying, I think this stormwater increase will work, we have fully done our research to be able to justify this is why we're increasing the stormwater fee by this amount.
well, every year that we delay, then we just have one more thing. I mean, it's just
Right.
Yeah.
building
Absolutely.
pretty soon. I mean, we can't tackle it all. It just gets too big. So we have to.
But the other part of this, not only the strategic plan, but the technical, is my contention. We have to educate our elected officials, both the commission and the council, and we also have to educate the public and get input from all those bodies, because what we're gathering just under $4 million a year, I think, if we don't get grants. What if this thing doubles or triples? Because the mission now is to take care of, and I agree it should be, but it comes at a cost.
Well, 1/4 of what we collect a year, almost 1/4 of it is just this single project here, $676,000.
Yeah, it's half of our annual construction.
Plus, we got debt.
$4 million is a lot of money, but not when you start paying engineers and contractors to fix it.
You got debt on the bond for South Haven. You got operational and maintenance.
Right.
So there's not much left for construction.
And it's mostly materials and contractors. I got to defend engineers, but they're a necessary element here. One of the things, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, we didn't have an inflation adjustment
No, there's no.
as far as, so, and any good fee really should have some kind of built-in adjustment.
We've talked about that before. We need an inflation kicker in there.
Yeah. And we talked about the fees general, Jim, and well, actually it goes back to Jeff even talking about, Jeff Good talking about the increasing the storm fees. But that was over 4 years ago. So
Now, Mike and Chelsea, what are your thoughts on So if you're going to be in a subdivision and we're taking responsibility, and Commissioner Biggs was talking about doing some sort of a higher fee for them because the costs of maintaining that are going to be a lot higher than if you're just out like where I live, and you're not maintaining any stormwater structure there. So
Well, I think we probably do need to have a roundtable to discuss it because we have different ways these will ramp on. If we have a brand new subdivision following our ordinances being put in correctly, I'm not sure that answer for that homeowners association is the same for solving a problem that existed that was put in under a different standard. I think those are two unique animals that need to be dissected to come up with the proper plan. The first example of a subdivision coming online correctly, inspected under our standards, they may need an additional stormwater fee above what we're charging now.
right.
But I guess step one would be, what should the stormwater rate be now?
Yeah.
Whatever that rate is, would that rate cover those subdivisions that are coming online currently? If not, then we could address whether that additional fee would need to be addressed there. And then we'd have to go back on ways to the sins of the past, is to figure out, those are almost going to be one-offs. They're all going to be different. The underlying problem, dollar amount, size are all going to be different. But coming up with a policy internally of how we would attempt to attack each one of those problems would probably be something that we could sit down and work through.
I agree.
I agree.
One of the biggest things that's kind of hurt you right now, it's been 10 years, so escalation has really eaten into your worth. In addition to, now we're discovering all these things from the past and they cost lots of dollars.
Then you throw inflation on top of it.
But I think
You're paying for a loaf of bread 10 years.
But I think Scott's right too, because even with a subdivision going in and they're doing everything right, the stormwater fee may not cover the maintenance down the road because no infrastructure is going to last forever.
But you also you're right, but you also got to think they're not just paying for their subdivision, they're paying for that drop of water to get somewhere outside their subdivision. So you got your network of system to keep in mind too.
Right, that goes back to the earlier, it's one system eventually getting somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So let us finish where Chelsea and I are reviewing the scope of work. That I would like to put a component in there to get the public involved, the elected officials involved. Because I think the bottom line is in a fee increase. And to get a fee increase, we have to educate because it has to have value. We got to not only to the public, but also to the elected official.
So just to summarize, I will work with the HOA on putting together MOU for Porter County to bring the stormwater infrastructure into our inventory, and then seek a cost share for the $21,880.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You need a motion on that, Scott?
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. All those signify by saying aye.
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 And can we just clarify that their cost share would be $21,880 out of the $676,020 total.
And
Motion.
Yep. Add that to the motion.
That second agrees. I just assumed.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. And then on my stormwater program manager's report, one item, this is just more of a notification, something that staff is exploring, is submitting a pre-proposal for Great Lakes Restoration Initiative funds, along with project partners, which would be Shirley Hines Land Trust and the Porter County Soil and Water Conservation District, for a water quality improvement project within the Kemper Ditch or the East Branch of the Little Calumet River watershed. So what this project may include is stream restoration or water quality improvements within a regulated drain, implementation of agricultural best management practices, so cover crops, buffers, grass waterways, to make it a demonstration farm, and then data collection on what meaningful water quality improvements are we seeing from that demonstration farm and our water quality improvement project, and then public education outreach. So There is no financial commitment with the submittal of the PRU proposal. It is just exploring, and this is through the U.S. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. So what the PRU proposal is just simply saying is that we have interest in this grant fund, and here's something that we are considering: a type of project, not necessarily a specific scope or even project location. And then prior to the submittal of any formal application, there would be several meetings between staff and the US EPA and then also the Stormwater Management Board before we were to submit any sort of application. So this is just a notification to the board that staff is exploring this. The Kemper Ditch watershed is one that was identified in the 2010 countywide drainage study as a area of concern. So this would resolve longstanding drainage issues and then also look at a water quality improvement component. So any questions on that standpoint for me?
Partnerships are always good.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be one with a really innovative partnership between a nonprofit land trust, our Soil and Water Conservation District, and then the Drainage Board, Stormwater Management Board. And then just another notice to the board, or more on the Stormwater Program Manager's report. Rolling Meadows subdivision, that storm sewer reconstruction project started last Monday, May 11th. They got the sediment forebay constructed and are starting the storm sewer installation. So they're, probably about 100, 150 feet into the storm sewer installation. That will be going on through.
Nice.
Very nice.
That concludes my program manager's report. If you have any.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bridge report.
Morning.
Good morning. So for Bridge Report, just so you're aware, it is Compliance Month, so our Bridge Inspector United Consulting is performing the countywide bridge inspection, so we'll have a report coming probably midsummer with all those findings. One issue that we did come across was Bridge 1002, which I'll get into at the end of this report as a result of those inspections. Next slide. So Bridge 150, we are now on the south side. That's a picture of Pier 2 being poured, and we're moving on to end bed 1 after that, and removals for approaches. So getting out of our substructure here probably in the next couple weeks. Next slide. This is Meridian Road. You can see the glass fiber rebar there. That's a innovative product that we're using on this project. The upcoming activity does have a typo. That should be form and pour the deck instead of the abutments. If you look at the picture on the right, you'll see 2 large conduit. Those are 4-inch future connections for utilities, so that way we can avoid any conflict later. That's there for any communication cables or utility that wants to cross. We have kind of an open space for that, which is nice to avoid any conflict in the future. Next slide. Bridge 132. We have advertised for that as of last Tuesday, and we have a pre-bid meeting for this project tomorrow, May 20th. Just to keep in mind, there's quite a few closures in this area. US 6 is projected to be open by late June. NDOT will be done with that overlay project at that time. We are moving forward with utility, and we should have NIPSCO gas relocation within a couple weeks. And we're planning on bid opening and awarding at the June 2nd meeting. We are ordering bridge bearings for early procurement as part of this contract too, to try and accelerate things. So we're still trying to get a beat on the contractors on their actual availability and materials procurement process. So tomorrow we'll have a better update on what the contract delivery will be for that, and make sure that August date is achievable or not. It seems like we might have to push it a few weeks, but I'll have a better update next meeting. Next slide. Oh, was there?
We could, going back to that, whatever we can do on our end to expedite that along, I appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, Martin, you are calling it closed for school starting. I see August 7th.
For the end date, yeah, we're hoping to be that's when we're hoping to be complete by the time that school opens on August 15th, I believe is the date for school. So we're trying to be ahead of that. it seems like some of the contractors are having a little bit of hesitation with the advertisement. So we're going to hear what they have to say at tomorrow's pre-bid meeting and hammer out those details.
And as usual, you keep the schools informed.
Absolutely. There was one more. Oh, that's all right. So yeah, Bridge 1002 is Morgan Avenue in Chesterton. That's the road just north of Ace Hardware there off of Calumet. We are going to have to do a posted load rating on that bridge. It will still remain open to traffic. It's just large trucks will not be able to go through. It's a 20-ton posted weight limit that's going to have to go up.
Yeah, it's like 2 blocks from my house.
Yeah. It's an adjacent box beam bridge, our favorite. So we did catch this one in time. We should be able to monitor and put up those signs and stay ahead of this. It will require a full superstructure replacement. The original substructure was built in 1975 or 77, so that should be able to be reused. So this should be a project for next year that we're going to be doing, and it would just be closure during those periods is what we're anticipating. And as part of the inspection process we have going on right now with United Consulting, they're updating all of our adjacent box beam bridges with a standard protocol for each of them based on the findings. So this is how we're going to be getting ahead of these projects and making sure that we're catching them in time. There's a few telltale signs of what's going on with the bridge that we've found out how to look for. They're looking for those during their inspection, and it's getting wrapped up in our current contract with them. Okay. So,
Town aware of this?
yes, we've made engineering aware of this future load postings could be happening next couple of weeks. But school buses and vehicular passenger traffic will still be going through as usual.
Okay. Great.
And that's all I had.
Yeah, go close some bridges to South County. Leave North.
That's not sure.
I feel like I've been beat up.
We have a lot more up here.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Any other matters which may become before the board? Anyone like to speak? Seeing none. All right. The next meeting will be June 2nd, 2026 at 9 a.m. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.